Hello everyone, welcome to Oceanography. I'm Virly Febriawati, a marine science student at Universitas Sultan Ageng Tirtayasa. Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're taking a deep dive into one of the most fascinating, dramatic, and honestly, ultimately helpful ecosystem on our entire planet. We're talking about coral bleaching. But look, we're not just going to throw dry textbook science at you today. No, we are going to look at this through the lens of the ultimate underwater romance drama, a complete toxic breakup and a scientifically proven epic glow up. Because if you think marine biology is just, staring at with rocks thing again, the drama happening right now on the ocean floor gives literally any reality show a run for its money. So, imagine you're diving. You expect to see this vibrant, colorful, bustling metropolis, right? Straight out of Finding Nemo. But suddenly, boom, the entire reef is a completely pile. It's white and it's totally abandoned. It's look exactly like a ghost town. Now, a lot of people mistakenly think coral are just like colorful ocean rocks that have somehow lowered their pain. No, coral are highly sensitive, living animals, and when they turn white like this, they aren't just sad or dead. That pile reef is actually a population of starving animals. Welcome to the harsh reality of coral bleaching. To actually understand how a vibrant underwater city becomes a ghost town, we have to meet in habitats. So I want you to imagine the coral animal, which is called the polyp, and a tiny microscopic algae called Zooxanthellae as roommates. And honestly, this alga is the absolute ultimate roommate. Zooxanthellae, which are part of a family called symbiosis, actually live inside the tissue of their cell host. It's an incredible tight living situation, but it just works perfectly. So, how does this mutualistic rent agreement actually play out? Well, the coral polyp provides the alga with a safe, stable shelter high up in the sunlit waters. In exchange, the alga pays its rent by doing photosynthesis. It literally cooks up food and passes those nutrients directly to the coral. And on top of that, the stunting young color you see and a healthy reef. That pigment naturally comes from the alga. It's this perfect thriving partnership that basically sustains the whole entire reef ecosystem. But here is the catch. Coral are incredible, moody, like super sensitive to their environment. When the ocean suddenly gets way too hot because of global warming, or when the water gets polluted from land runoff, it causes a massive systemic fight change. The coral becomes extremely stressed out by this changing condition. And I mean, what do you do when you're super stressed and your living situation suddenly feels toxic? You kick your roommate out. No, the literal cellular mechanism of how a coral goes its roommate are fascinating. Way back in 1992, a science named Rutgers and Harris College wants to know exactly how temperature stress causes the coral to affect this algae. Looking closely at the cellular layers, they discovered that under severe temperature shock, the coral endoderm cells actually detach. The host coral releases intact cells that still contain the algae, completely severing the relationship. Over the years, science have found that corals actually have a few different, highly dramatic ways to handle this eviction, a process scientifically known as dysbiosis. Sometimes it's apoptosis, where the host cell basically just self-destructs. Sometimes it's necrosis, where the tissue breaks down, or it's ecocytosis, where the coral literally spits the algae right out to the curb, but look, whichever chaotic method the coral uses, the result is exactly the same. The coral picks out its primary food source, loses all its color, and is left completely starving, showing nothing but its bare, with skeleton. Now, you might be wondering, why does this microscopic roommate drama actually matter to us? Well, look at this number. Terumbu karang or coral reef cover less than 1% of the entire ocean floor, literally less than 1%. Yet, a staggering 25% of all marine species rely on this reef. They live there. They breed there, they hunt there. The reef is the central economic and social hub of the entire ocean. So when the coral starves, it triggers a wildly toxic domino effect. First, the reef structure weakens, then the entire local food chain collapses because the fish have nowhere to hide or eat. For us humans, this means the seafood supply plummets and prices just skyrocket. But it gets even worse. Healthy reef acts as massive natural wave breakers. Without them, our coastlines are fully exposed to storms. This is exactly why integrated coastal ecosystems are absolutely vital. For example, preserving protective mangrove belts, like those on the coast of Lantar, is crucial. Those mangroves naturally filter out toxic land runoff and pollution before they ever reach the delicate coral reef in Benton waters. It's all connected. So, is this ghost town the end of the story, or the reef just doomed? To find out, we actually have to look back at history. Specifically, we're going to look at the catastrophic 1883 eruption of the Krakatoa volcano in the Sunda Strait, right off the coast of Java and Sumatra. Let me see the scans. In August 1883, Krakatoa erupts with such unbelievable force that it completely experiments all marine life within a 15-kilometer radius. We are talking molten rocks, thick ice, and boiling temperature that literally starlies the seafloor. It was total apocalyptic annihilation. But then, fast forward to 1913, and a new island, Ana Krakatau, emerges. And today, research have found that the fringing coral reef have actually returned, and the genetic diversity of the coral there has largely recovered. Talk about an epic historical glow up, right? A major study basically asks microsatellite variation, which is essentially a coral DNA test, to track exactly where these new survivor corals came from. They mapped out the genetic cluster across Indonesia, and they found that after the volcano wiped out absolutely everything, coral larvae float in from the closest upstream reef system, primarily from Pulau Seribu, to completely recolonize the devastated Krakatau zone. The research compared two specific types of coral to prove this happened. First, they looked at Poecilophora demiscornis, a species that is known for high gen flow and floating really long distance. Its genetic diversity buoys back incredibly well, showing it successfully migrates from multiple distant sources. But then, they looked at Sariatophora hystrix, which is a species that actually does travel far at all. And guess what? Even this humble species managed to recolonize the area, primarily migrating from to Pulau Reef. It proves that if healthy upstream search population exists, a completely dead reef can exactly be resided. That led research of that study dropped this incredible conclusion. They state that the recovery of genetic diversity in coral reef animal can occur on the order of decades and centuries rather than millennia. Guys, that is a massive message of hope. Coral are incredible too. They are widely resilient. If they are just given the right condition, they are fully capable of making an epic comeback in our lifetimes. So, what exactly is the action plan for this modern mission glow up? How do we stop the remote drama of bleaching before it starts? Number one, we absolutely have to reduce the global carbon emission that cause those fatal health spikes. Number two, we must firstly protect healthy upstream reef because they are the larval nurseries that will rebuild damaged areas. And number three, we have to maintain local water quality, and this actually where tech steps in. We can deploy real-time IoT or Internet of Things sensor networks in the water to continuously monitor for anomalies in sea temperature and pH level. If we catch the stress factor early, we can stop before the eviction happens. Which brings us to the ultimate question. We know beyond a shadow of the dome that coral are cycling enough to survive an actual, literal volcanic apocalypse. The science proof they can bounce back, find their roommates again, and rebuild their neon cities. So the only question now is, can they survive us? It's entirely on us to keep their environment clean, cool, and stable. So after learning all this, what your next move going to be to protect our ocean? Okay, thank you. Bye.